Did you know that one Saudi trucking company earned more in March 2026 than in the whole of 2025 combined? The company is called Ramul Transportation. They run trucks on the Jeddah to Dammam corridor. That route did not exist as a commercial container lane 4 months ago. Today, it's carrying upper Gulf cargo for MSC, Hapag-Lloyd, and CMA CGM customers.
1/4 of revenue last year, beaten in a single month. So that tells you everything about where Gulf cargo actually goes right now. Today, we're going to be talking about where that cargo goes and why the carriers are not telling you the whole story. Welcome back to the Dockflow Dispatch. I'm Pari.
And I'm Michiel.
And this is our third Hormuz episode. So week 1, we did the operational playbook. Week 5, we talked about how rates ripped across global lanes. And we're now actually already in week 13 of the Hormuz crisis. So week 13, what we see now is that forwarders stop hoping that the strait really reopens. They start booking around it. And there are 3 named bypass corridors that are now operational. Each one has a hidden choke point, though, that carriers don't necessarily lead with.
Yeah, we've spent the week pulling the routing notice, the customers' advisories, and the trade press. There's a real playbook emerging, and there's a real gap between what's marketed and what works.
So here's what we're going to do. First, we'll walk through the 3 corridors that exist today, and then we'll actually get to where they break. And then 3 things you can do this week to protect your bookings and your customer conversations.
All right, let's start with the corridors. So the first one is the Saudi landbridge. MSC launched it on May 10th. And the routing is Antwerp through the Suez Canal into Jeddah or King Abdullah port, and then on the truck.
And how far on the truck?
It's roughly 1,300 kilometers or 800 miles. So Jeddah across Dammam, on the Gulf Coast, and then feeder vessels onward to Abu Dhabi and Jebel Ali.
So that's basically the whole width of the country.
It's the width of the country. And Hapag-Lloyd has a similar land bridge version, so theirs extends even further in Kuwait, Qatar, Iraq, and Bahrain.
Okay, and what about the Saudi land bridge rail? Because that was supposed to make this route really easy. Where is it?
It does not exist. It was first announced in 2004, it stalled in 2010, and picked up again in 2011. So the Saudi Arabia Railways could not agree with the Chinese consortium on local content rules. And the current target for delivery is 2034. That's per Meets reporting last month. So construction tenders are not expected until the middle of next year. So everything you ship across Saudi Arabia today moves by truck.
Okay, so that's a detail that kind of sounds boring until you think a bit further and realize what it means, which is that every container on the Saudi land bridge right now is a truck movement, not a rail movement, not a barge, of course, but a truck.
Yeah, and that's the first corridor. The second is the UAE-Oman bonded corridor. So actually 2 of them now.
2?
Yeah, so the original is the Dubai Green Corridor, activated back in March, just after the strait closed.
Okay.
It runs from the Emirates down to Oman through bonded customs handling. And customs declarations on that corridor went from 12,000 in March to nearly 100,000 in April. So 8 times growth in a month. That's per the national last week.
That's hardly a corridor. That sounds more like a stampede or a big rush.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why they activated the second corridor on May 14th. Sharjah Customs partnered with Omani Customs. So Port Khalid in Sharjah is now the loading point. And bonded trucks move through the Katmat-Malaha border, crossing down to Sohar and Duqm.
Okay, so the second corridor exists to relieve the first one.
Yeah, that's the polite framing. So the honest framing is that the first corridor saturated in 6 weeks.
Okay, and the third corridor?
So that's Hapag-Lloyd's Upper Gulf Service, activated on May 4th. The carrier discharges mainline vessels at Khor-Fakkan. That's on the Gulf of Oman, outside the strait. And then from Khor-Fakkan, cargo moves by bonded road for about 5 days into Sharjah Container Terminal. From Sharjah third-party feeders carry the boxes onward to Kuwait, Dammam, Qatar, Iraq, and UAE destinations.
So that's 5 days on a bonded road for one feeder leg. So a bonded road that has a kind of a customs corridor, let's say.
Exactly. So 5 days. And here's the structural number. Korfakan has never operated above 3 million TEU per year. And Jebel Ali handles 25 million.
Yeah, that there is the gap. So we're rerouting cargo that normally goes through a 25 million TEU port through a port that has never handled more than 3.
And that's the core constraint. And it explains why everything else we're about to talk about is so tight.
So these 3 corridors, Saudi landbridge and then 2 UAE-Oman corridors, Hapag-Lloyd's Sharjah hub, they're all bookable today and they're all being used.
Yeah, exactly. All being used, and all of them have at least one thing the carrier glossies don't lead with.
Let's get into that because 3/4 of what carriers publish on this is the routing diagram. So 1/4 is the conditions, and we need to flip that ratio for our listeners.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll get into the 3 choke points. So the first choke point, truck capacity, is the real ceiling.
All 3 corridors converge on roads, not rails. Roads were built for routine regional commerce. They were not built for rerouted global trade. So I keep coming back to one image when I read this research. Imagine a hospital that diverts ambulances when the main highway is blocked. The ambulances, they keep moving, right? They take back roads. But the back roads are a lot narrower. They were built for local traffic, and every truck route bypassing Hormuz is running on infrastructure that was designed for routine commerce. So the roads will hold, but only barely. And if one back road gets hit, there is no backup to the backup.
No, and the numbers behind that image are pretty stark. So Jeddah to UAE trucks rate pre-war ran around 4,000 Saudi riyals, and that's about $1,000 per move.
And how about now?
Now we're talking 18,000 to 21,000 riyals, so roughly 4,800 to 5,600 US dollars. Yeah, that's 4 to 5 times the pre-war rate, and that's from the Lodestar's reporting on the landbridge.
Okay, so 4 to 5 times, and for the truck portion alone.
Yeah, for the truck portion alone. And that's why Ramul Transportation made more in March than in all of 2025. And they're not the only one. Every Saudi trucking firm with bonded capacity is in this market.
Okay, and I just want to dive into something that we're seeing on our side. So Dockflow customers, they're using our Hormuz Watch feature. That's a view that we built in March to show the extra lead time per container. And they're actually now flagging something that we didn't expect, which is that the variability is now on the land side, not the sea side. So cargo gets discharged on schedule, and the container sits at Korfakan or Jeddah for an unpredictable window before the truck shows up.
Okay.
So trucks are the new biggest bottleneck now, not ships, but this just changes where forwarders need visibility at what point in the journey.
Yeah, exactly. And that brings us to the second choke point, the insurance gap on the road legs.
And this is one that most forwarders are not immediately thinking about.
So there's a war risk insurance premium on Gulf routes are up 300 to 500% overall. That's been reported across the trade press.
Okay, but what about the road portion?
Yeah, that's the question. We searched, and no insurer has published specific coverage language for the bonded road segments. So not for the 1,300 kilometer Jeddah to Dammam haul, not for the 5-day Sharjah to Korfakan leg.
So, like, if we just picture this, imagine your container. There's a road accident and your container catches fire 600 kilometers into the Saudi desert on a Jeddah-Dammam route. Whose policy will then pay? Marine cargo policy probably has a clause that says cargo afloat. So cargo on a truck for 5 days, that's not afloat. Make sure you talk to the carrier because the carrier's bill of lading probably says transit. So make sure you read both.
And most forwarders are assuming that because they route it around the strait. They route it around the risk.
Yes, that's the assumption, and it's wrong. So Maritime Executive actually put it well last week. They wrote that bypass routing does not move fragility. It relocates it.
Yeah, and that's the line I'd quote to a customer who pushes back on these questions.
Yep. And the third choke point, that's the one your sales team needs to hear.
And the schedule that isn't a schedule.
So Hapag-Lloyd's Upper Gulf service explicitly has no fixed weekly schedule. That's not a footnote, that's their own customer notice.
Yeah, they put it in writing. The feeders operate without fixed weekly schedules, and transit depends on regional safety conditions.
So most customers, they don't read that. They get a quote, see a transit time, and they book. Then in week 3, they'll call you because their reefer has been sitting at Corsican for an extra 9 days, and nobody told them.
Yeah, because the routing was sold as a routing, not as a routing with conditions.
So this is the language that I'd use with customers. We are booking a routing concept, not a sailing. Send that in writing before you confirm a booking. And if the customer signs off on a routing concept, instead of transit time, you've actually protected the relationship before the call about the delayed reefer shipment happens.
Yeah. So now we've got the 3 corridors, we've got the 3 choke points, truck capacity, insurance gap, and a schedule that isn't a schedule.
All right, so what does a forwarder actually need to do first thing on Monday morning? So first one is truck capacity. Lock written confirmation in before you quote a transit time. Don't accept the carrier's published transit at face value. Email back, ask, please confirm in writing that truck capacity from Jeddah to your destination is available for our specific booking dates. And if the carrier hedges, then you've just learned something that your customer needs to know. So if the carrier confirms, you've got cover for the conversation while something ships.
Yeah, and quote forward bookings on the assumption that the road lag is your biggest variable.
That is the mental shift. So 3 months ago, the variable was the carrier capacity at sea, but to date, the variable is truck capacity on land. So build your customer quotes around that.
Yeah, and then the second action. And then the second action is audit the cargo policy and the bill of lading together on the road portions. Cargo offload clauses do not cover bonded road segments by default. So most marine policies don't extend to a 5-day road haul.
Right. So ask your cargo insurer in writing, does our policy extend to the bonded road segment between this port and that port? And ask your carrier in writing, whose liability covers cargo on the bonded road leg? What's the limit?
And where there's silence in either answer, there's exposure. So tell the customer about it before it becomes a claim.
This is also a sales opportunity if you handle it well, because customers who realize they have a coverage gap on the road portion will trust the forwarder that flagged it, not the one who didn't.
Yeah, that's a good reframe.
Yeah. Third action is resetting customer expectations to Q4, not Q3. DHL CEO for Middle East and Africa, Tobias Meyer, he said it best. He said, the rough industry rule is 1 week of disruption equals 1 month to recover.
Oh, and we are 13 weeks in. That implies we're at least 4 months from operationally normal.
Yeah. So even if the strait reopens tomorrow, container capacity to upper Gulf ports will not normalize before September at the earliest. So more likely October to November.
Oh, wow. And that's the framing for the customer who keeps asking, even if the deal is signed, we're planning for Q4, and here's why.
And here's the operational rule of thumb. Do not quote Gulf direct sailings to customers until daily Hormuz transits cross 50. We're at 7 today.
7 transits a day. The pre-war baseline was 130 plus. We're at 5% of the normal flow.
Yes, 5%. So when a customer asks, when can we go direct again? The honest answer is when the transit crosses over 50, then we'll have a real conversation. Until then, the bypass corridor. The question we're getting most from Duckflow customers right now is not when will this end? It's what do I tell my customer who's losing patience, right? And that is the harder conversation. So customers can absorb chaos for a few weeks, but by week 13, they want certainty. And forwarders who keep them are the ones who give honest timelines, not optimistic ones.
Yeah, honesty is also durable. So promise Q3 and miss it, you've lost a relationship. Promise Q4 and you deliver in Q3, you're a hero.
Yeah, under-promise the recovery, over-deliver, and it surprises us. Let's wrap, Michiel. Maybe take the first one. In your own words.
All right, so trucks are actually the new ships. If you can't get truck capacity confirmed in writing, you can't really commit to a transit time and build that into how you quote.
Right. And the insurance one?
Yeah, read the bill of lading and cargo policy together. The bonded road segment is where the gap lives. Ask both sides in writing, flag anything ambiguous to your customer before it becomes a claim.
And finally, the customer expectations one, which is plan for Q4. Don't quote on Q3 hope. If customer pushes on timing, give them rule of thumb, which is that 1 week of disruption equals 1 month of recovery. So we're 13 weeks in. That means at least 4 months from a clean reopening.
Yeah, which we don't have yet.
If you found this useful, tell your colleagues about it. And if you want to see Hormuz Watch in action, book a demo at docflow.com.
Thank you so much for listening.
See you next week.